But at what point were you like starting to make real money? When did you start making real money? That's 19.
It took about 7 to 8 months, before I started to do maybe like $300 or $400 every day. It didn't start off like a lot of people. Like now, it's a little different now than it was when I first started, and even we didn't have cocaine, what they call cocaine tracks. Like now they have places that you can go, and they already have people who are looking for cocaine at those areas, so you could go there and you might make, like we used to have a spot that would do $50,000 in one day. You could go out on the street, just stand out on the street and have cocaine, and you might make $50,000 if you can beat everybody out on the block. There's other people out competing for that same money, but if you were good, then you could collect all that money or most of it, and that's how I started out. But I had to build that street up myself. I built the street up, and then other guys came. The street that I built up probably used to do $100,000 a day, just that one
100K
street.
a day.
Yeah, one street.
Now, you don't seem threatening. You're not a big guy. You're a small guy. Why are people not bullying you out of the street? Why are they letting you do it? Why aren't people saying, hey, get out of here, or beating you up?
Well, you have to. You have to have tact. It's tactful. You have to be tactful. And what I always do is I share with other people. I don't take the money myself and just use it for me. I like to share. And once you share with the other people, even some of them are stupid enough though still, to take a knife and stab the goose that's laying the golden eggs. But the majority of the people, they have a tendency to at least allow the goose to live. Oh, just run around and I get an egg every now and then. And that's pretty much the way that they allow me to function.
And what year is this? You're saying 7 months later, you're 19, 20 years old. What year you're looking at?
80.
This is 80?
Yeah, 80.
So scaling to you having hundreds of people working for you, how long did it take to get to that point? Was there a new relationship? Was there somebody that came in?
Well, most of my guys started to get involved. Like all my friends. It's like when you start to find, like hitting the lottery. Somebody hit the lottery, then all their family members want to be around, want to talk to them. And it's the same thing in the drug business. Once people see you being successful, they want a part of it some kind of way. They usually want a handout, but some of them actually do a little work to get that handout.
How were you recruiting people?
I was looking for people in the same position that I was in. People that had all the skills, all the talents, but didn't know what to do with it.
And conversation, what's it sounding like? You talking to me, what are you telling me?
Say for instance, I could walk in the gym, going to play basketball, and it might be one of the, what we call young homies who would be at the gym, and I'm gonna use one of the ones who testified against me. And he said he was sitting in the gym, and when I tell his story, it seems almost similar to mine. When I was sitting on the porch and didn't know what I was gonna do. Well, he was sitting on the stage at the gym, and he didn't know what he was gonna do, and I was like, man, what you doing with yourself? You didn't make it in baseball, huh? And this kid played baseball, and I was like, so what you gonna do now? And he was like, I don't know. I was like, why don't you go with me? We do pretty good for ourselves. We feeding our families, we got houses, we got cars. Try this route. And he got off the stage and he went with me.
How quickly did he start selling?
Oh, the same day. It don't take long selling drugs is easy. A 9-year-old kid could really do it, if they could defend themselves from the bullies, like you said. It's simple. In some ways, it's genius, but it's also a simple trade if you know what you're doing. Really anything though is simple
true.
once you know the rules.
It's amazing what you're saying is how subconscious mind, you're like, I allowed that Superfly message to get into my head for me to think about that. So. But at what point, I guess the part I'm trying to get to is, was there a relationship you got where all of a sudden you went from making $500 a day to making $300,000 a day?
Well, first I was getting my drugs from my friend who went to college, who introduced me to it. And then I started dealing with a teacher, Mr. Fisher, who had a connection that I didn't know about. And when he turned me on to the connection, I went from, I think we were buying like 7s, quarter ounces, and when we started dealing with him and his friends, our quality got better and our price got cheaper. So it started to escalate from there to where now we're doing $1,000 a day, you know, and it just escalated from there to $5,000 a day, $10,000 a day, and it got to the point to where the first one that we were dealing with, he got paralyzed. His wife shot him in the back. He got paralyzed.
Why did his wife shoot him in the back? Was it just a fight?
I don't
like
know,
that?
cheating probably, you know.
Oh, okay, got it. Got it. That makes sense.
No telling.
Yeah.
I never found out the reason, but when he got paralyzed, his brother-in-law took over his business. His brother-in-law he didn't really have an appetite for it. You know, he wasn't really like a business guy. So what he did is he sold me to the Connect.
He sold you to the Connect.
Yeah, he sold me to the Connect. And he sold the Connect to me.
How did that conversation, how did the introduction?
He came to me one day and he was like, he spoke broken English too. He was from Nicaragua, and he was like, man, I want out of this business. I don't like this business. Somebody had got busted. One of his people had got busted, and he was scared that they might tell. So he was like, man, I don't like this business. I want to be out, but I want to introduce you to the connection. And I was totally for that. And then, you know, price came up. How much? And he wanted 100 grand, but I was able to talk him down to 60 grand, where I gave him 60.
Just for the Connect?
Just to introduce me to the Connect.
So you give him the 60, you get connected, then what happens?
We start booming.
How quickly?
Well, I was already ghetto rich at that time. You know, I probably had a few $100,000 at that time.
How old are you at that time? Were you in your early 20s, 21, 22?
22, 23 maybe.
Okay, got it.
Still young, but,
yeah.
You know, up in age, you know. The day we met, me and Danilo first met, I think we did like 50 kilos that day.
Day one?
Yeah, day one.
Where'd you guys meet?
We already kind of knew each other, you know. Like, it's like you know somebody, but you don't, you know, like, man, I sure wish I could talk to him, but, you know, but we had never, out of respect, you know, you can't jump over your connect, you know what I'm saying? It has to be done properly. So I'd already knew who he was, so meeting him was just like, okay, this is what I've been waiting on. So he dropped the price a couple $1,000 as soon as we met, you know, a couple thousand per kilo. And I mean, you're talking about a couple $1,000 per kilo is a lot. You know what I'm saying? You do 50 keys, that's 100 grand
100
extra.
grand, yeah.
Extra, not what you've been making, but this is 100 grand extra. So you start making that kind of money every single day. And then, you know, now some days we're doing 200 kilos, you know, one day. A day, yeah.
And each kilo you're making how much profits?
2,000, 2,500. Yeah, I mean, it's according to who comes. You know, the guys who are buying like 20 kilos at a time, you're probably making like 2,000 off of them, 2,500.
Who were your customers, Bob? Were most dealers your customers?
Dealers,
Dealers
yeah.
were your
I was
customers?
dealing with dealers. I kind of like created my dealers too. You know, I had come up with a formula where I would go into the community, and by me knowing, I grew up there, so I knew all the players. You know, I knew them, so I knew who would be basically what they call the influencers now. You know, the guys who was telling people what to do, how to do it, and they ran their neighborhoods. Shot callers is what we used to call them.
Why did the shot callers allow you to keep the influencer blending and not go through you to get direct to the connect?
Well, they didn't know who he was. I wouldn't let them meet Blandon. So I could buy my own drugs, so they never had to see Blandon. You know, when Blandon would come, I had the money to buy all the drugs, and then I could take the drugs and sell them to
When
them.
they asking you, like, hey, you know, Rick, who's the guy? Who's the guy you're getting your
Nah,
stuff from?
nah, they
Nobody
weren't.
was asking.
Nah.
Literally, nobody was asking. Why weren't they asking?
They were doing better than they'd ever thought about doing before in their life.
But greed gets some people to want to go through you and, you know, get even a bigger contract.
What they do, I mean, what wind up happening is eventually, you know, when these guys become millionaires, and then other dealers come into the city, and that's why the price went down so low. You know, before I went to prison, first kilo I bought, I think I paid like $48,000 for it. The first whole kilo I bought. But now, when I was buying ounces, I was paying $3,300 for 1 ounce. So you're talking about if you do 33 times 36, you're talking about paying something like 100 and something per kilo. And when I first started buying my first kilo, I paid 48. So the price was substantially
Sure.
lower
Yeah.
at that time. But before I quit, the last kilo I bought was like 9,500.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
From 100 plus, 48 to 9,500.
yeah. So that shows you how much the price came down. And this is during the height of the war on drugs. So even though the
Reagan era.
the war on drugs was going full steam ahead, the price of the cocaine was going down, which was making it more accessible to more people.
How are you staying low key at this time?
I just dressed the way I always dress, you know. I didn't need any jewelry. I came to a point in my life to where I didn't need to show anybody what I was doing, you know, who I was or how I wanted to be perceived. So you take me the way I am or leave it.
Did you ever watch American Gangster?
I did.
So when you watch it, what'd you think about it?
They were pretty close, you know. It wasn't bad on mine. I enjoyed some of the other guys on there that I watched, and I learned lessons from them as well. I mean, you know, it's like a lesson. You know, you can take lessons from it. But on my particular documentary, matter of fact, you know, I'm working with Reginald Hutland right now, the guy who did and greenlit American Gangster series for BET. We're working together right now on my movie. So,
On your movie?
Yeah, so I felt pretty good about the job that he did. He was pretty fair, you know. He didn't slam me, you know, the way he could have, I guess.
Now you and Frank have done events together.
Yeah, we did.
When he was alive.
Yeah, we did an event together.
How was that when you saw Frank? Like, what's the conversations like? There was no conversations.
We had a little conversation. Me and Frank are kind of different people, you know. Frank was more grittier than I was, I think. You know, he treated people a little different than I treat people. I didn't really like the way he talked to people, as if he put himself on a pedestal. And I don't believe that any of us should be on a pedestal. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what your last name is, you know, what movie you played in. You just like me, you know, you got to go to the bathroom and take a piss, just like I do.
How did you stay humble with all that? I mean, you got $300 million of net profits in the 80s. What's the most cash you ever had to yourself? Cash.
I had like 3.2 million cash counted. I still have money on the street. But that's the most cash I ever had.
3.2 million.
Yeah.
Got it. So then you got cash on the street that's doing its work. You're making your money. You're living large. People at that time sometimes are tempted to do crazy things. What was your vice?
I didn't want to go to prison, you know, and I knew that if I would do something stupid, you know, like maybe somebody owed, like a couple people owed me. Like one guy owed me like $360,000, and my guys want to go and drag him out the house and demolish him, right? And I'm like, okay, let's talk about it first. Because you got a good point. Now, I take your point in consideration, but let's say we do that. And then we kill him. Then homicide gonna come in, and they're gonna be investigating, and they're gonna try to figure out who did it. And maybe they won't find out it was us, maybe they will. Maybe they're just suspicious that it was us, and they come and arrest us. How much is that gonna cost? How much bail gonna cost? You know, then one of them would say, oh, probably about $50,000 each one of us. And then, what Alan Fincher gonna cost to fight the case? He probably gonna want $80,000. I said, okay, so it's 6 of us in here. That's 50 each. You know what I'm saying? So that's 300,000 plus Alan's 80 just for one, and then we got to get everybody else lawyers. And we ain't gonna get that money back.
So were you a math guy? If you couldn't read or write,
I love math.
It's very obvious. I mean, you're just doing math right in front of me, talking to me.
Yeah, I love math. Math. I think math and science is really all we need. You know, if you can do math and science.
Why do you say that?
Well, you know, the art of science is breaking things down to figure out their origins or what it's going to do, you know, in the future. You know, like when you plant a seed in the ground, you are looking for it to perform a certain function in the future, and that's pretty much what life is about. You know, the thing that I think that I do well is I can take what's going on today and see what's going to happen tomorrow.
You can take what's going on today and see what's going to happen tomorrow.
Yeah, I can predict what's going to happen tomorrow. Like I can go to a street and I can look at the street and I can pretty much predict what type of building should be there, what neighborhoods is going to be there. You know, I don't know where I get it from, but I can just do it. And I do the same thing with people. You know, I can look at a person and I can kind of tell, like, this is what you should be doing. I'm telling you. You might not listen to me, but that's your calling.
Interesting. So your vice at the time when you're coming up, it's what? It's purely women, because you're not using drugs yourself.
No.
Did you ever try crack, cocaine, any of that, or no?
I tried crack a couple times. I think I might have used for about a week straight. You know, when I got to an ounce, right? I got to an ounce. I think I'm rich. An ounce at that time was worth about 9,000. Broke down, you know, to the last term. You know, you sell every 20, you make about 9,000. So when I got my first ounce, I was like, oh yeah, I'm here, I'm there, baby. I made it. And I'm thinking I'm rich, right? And so my cousins, who I didn't really understand addiction at that time.
You didn't understand addiction at that time?
No, I didn't. They were already using. And they was like, well, man.
They're older than you?
Yeah, right. We all around the same age, maybe a year, you know, one or two of them, some of them were a little younger. They convinced me to try it. Like, man, you've been doing all this sacrificing, you done got all that. You know, I got like a little handful of dope. You got all that dope, now you might well try it and see what everybody else like. And I was like, because it does get curious. And that brings me to another one of my points. I believe that our dope problem centers around people trying to make money. It doesn't center around people trying to be drug addicts. Most people who use drugs right now don't start off to be drug addicts. They start off trying to be hustlers, and they fall victim to their own product. So when we sitting there, they convinced me to try it. And I tried it, not too bad. Lucky for me though, I got sick. And by me being an athlete, I was like, man, you know you wasn't supposed to be doing that. And all of the older guys who I was selling to had already told me, if you don't use, you're gonna get rich. So when
if you don't use, you're going to get rich.
If you don't use. So when I finish and I come up out of this coma that I'm in, this drug high coma that I'm in, I might have had $300. And I was like, no, Rick, this is not what you got into this for. You're never using again. I told myself that. You're never gonna use again. And I just never did.
Interesting.
I started smoking weed though later on.
Later on?
Yeah.
How old?
Probably 6 months later.
6 months later?
Yeah.
Permanently, regularly?
Yeah, every day.
So weed is a regular thing for you?
Not now, no.
Then?
I mean, it was then, yeah.
Okay.
Well, now I do edibles.
Now you do edibles?
I do edibles, yeah.
It's what's the biggest difference for you, edibles versus smoking it?
Cheaper.
Cheaper.
Like you eat the edibles, you stay high all day. I can buy like a bag of edibles.
Yeah.
I buy a bag of edibles for like $15, and that lasts me for a week.
A bag of edibles?
Yeah, like I might take one. They got these little chewies, and I'm gonna do my own chewies too for vegans. So and they got vegan chewies too.
Interesting.
So I'll get a bag of those, and I'll take one every day, or you know if I want to go to. Some days I don't do it, and I do it at night when I get ready to go to bed, and it just puts me in this space where it allows my mind to kind of like drift down a little bit, because one of the things about me is my mind is constantly going. You know, it never stops. It never rests. It's just like all the time coming up with this idea, that idea, this formula, you know, and sometimes I like to like shut it down, you know, like just relax it and try to calm it down.
Interesting.
And it helps.
So you're on fire. You're doing great things. Now, are you guys using force at that time? Are you guys like into the whole killing thing? Is that happening or not?
No,
really? That's not your world.
Kill no much for what?
No, for no. Now you guys got guns because Blandon's
Oh
bringing guns.
no. We got artillery, but it's self-defense.
Purely self-defense.
Yeah, well, you figure, you know, you run around LA, you doing, you know, $2 and $3 million cocaine deals every day. Every day I'm doing it. So every day we're carrying duffel bags of money. You know, I'm talking about like those big army bags.
How is it that your net profits in the 80s was 300 million, but the max you ever had was 3.2 million? 3.2 million is not a lot of money. Are you spending a lot? Are you buying a lot of property?
I'm spending. I got a lot of people that is eating off the plate too. You know, it's not just me eating. I probably my average profit every day was about 200,000-300,000
per day.
Per day.
So how do you have only 3.2 million?
Well, you spend it.
'Cause
I got
but
property.
you're not buying cars, though. You're
No, I'm
not
buying property.
You're buying
I got
property.
cars too. I got cars. Not personal cars. You know, I got cars because when you're in the drug business, you want to switch cars. I probably at that time, I probably had about 25, 30 cars.
But not your name.
No, not in my name, and they not fancy cars. They just switch cars. You know, like a car you drive because you don't want nobody to know what you drive.
You're all strategy at that time.
Yeah, Australia. Well, it wasn't a time for play. You know,
Got
this
it.
was all work. I was building motels. You know, I had a motel. And I think I built my motel, I was like 22 years old when I built my first motel. Because my mom kicked me out the house. She found out I was selling drugs, so she kicked me out. So now I'm living in motels. And I was like, wow, these motels $45 a night and I can't get a room. You know, I'm standing outside the hotel room and they don't have no rooms. And, you know, I got $100,000 in my pocket, but I can't get a hotel room. And I was like, that room can't be that expensive to build. You know, why don't you build one? And I started, and I built a motel, and before I got arrested, I was in the process of building like 3 more. And that's really where I spent my money, you know, buying houses. You know, I would be driving down the street and I see a house that was abandoned, boarded up, and I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna buy that and fix it up. This house should look like this. And
At the max, how many properties did you own? Max.
probably about 30.
30 properties,
Mm-hmm.
max.
Yeah, if I would have had all my properties right now that I had, I'd probably be worth about $150, $200 million right now.
Oh, so commercial property. You're not talking about regular like homes.
Oh, no, I didn't buy a home for myself.
Okay.
I didn't want a home yet.
So you're living out of what? You're living out of an apartment, or you're living?
Apartments, houses. One of my places, you know, I would have, my girlfriends had houses. You know, I bought them their houses. But it wasn't the kind of house that I saw myself living in forever. You know, it was like, you know, nice neighborhood, you know, just a nice house, you know what I'm saying? But they were young too, you know, 22 years old, 21 years old. They got a house and their mama didn't have a house, you know, so they felt good about themselves.